Because, Your Excellency, ityebile le platform. Ndixakwe noba ndixa lijonga ngapha ndibona bawupityana ndixa lijonga ngapha yeah. There's someone like it's very difficult to ityebile le platform. Ndixakwe noba miss because he's very tall. Comrade Zolin for veterans. So this was a man, amongst men. As we gather here today to celebrate his life, we really want to acknowledge the organization he belonged to, the African National Congress, and all other political formations and trade unions that he has been part of. We are gathered here this morning to pay tribute to a great patriot, a teacher, a principal. I saw Umfundisi Mdladlana here, and I cannot not remember that he and Uba Mdladlana in the streets of Gugulethu, and go scoutmaster, you know. And I think that this disciplinarism is suga up, you know, spiced ekaya. Also a man of God, you know, Shumaeli of note, a straight talker, a revolutionary and organic one for that matter. Comrade Mdladlana could walk with kings, but also be comfortable amongst the peasantry. An incorruptible leader. One of the finest has now departed. He died with his boots on. Kudla ngothiwa ke ngesiZulu ziyahamba izinsizwa kushiyeka izibongo kuphela. You know, we might say, and I think the family did this on Wednesday, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, but Comrade Membathisi will never die. His voice will ring forever and ever. Like dust, his voice will rise. His deeds are engraved in the hearts and minds of our people. This was a trailblazer. Someone who taught us about non-racialism. And someone was referring on Wednesday to the formation of the South African Democratic Teachers Union. And this person reminded us of something that we might have forgotten. That during apartheid times, even the teachers' unions, there was one, Comrade Naledi, for coloreds, one for Africans, one for whites, and so forth. But the formation of SATU, in the forefront of that formation was Wake 2 of Yusuf Kabro, CTPA, and Day2. And Comrade Mdladlana was elected as the president. I want now to call on the next speaker to pay tribute, who is a colleague and friend, Mr. Themba Mngwane. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Program Director. My greetings to our Deputy President. My greetings to the honorable members of the National Assembly, the provincial and the local government, to the House at large. My greetings especially to the Mdladlana family and those who are close to them. I want to correct something here before I proceed, Program Director. In the program, they said I'm Themba Ngwane. I'm not. I'm Themba Mkumani. Fortunately, we were together with the Program Director here sometime. And let me start and talk about this giant. Membathisi Mdladlana. I've known this guy for 60 years. But when we reached manhood, we were a group of 6. But 3 of those have passed on, that's including Mdladlana. And then there are only 3 that are left. It's myself and Klein Ding, who's not here. He's attending to another funeral. And then the 3rd person is Spini Sumbulu. He's no more in South Africa. He's stationed in France. As a big 6, as we call ourselves, Mdladlana was the youngest of them, of this group, but a talkative and an eloquent speaker. I was the big brother to them. Whenever we had some discussions and there's something that we don't see eye to eye, Mdladlana will say, look guys, I am different from you. I repeat, he will say, I am different from you. And then he will proceed and said, because mna ndingumntana wesingcobo. If I was umntana wesingcobo, you will ask somebody who's next to you. Mdladlana will say, ndingumntana wesingcobo. And then he will say, I see beyond the horizon and I do things the other way around. He will say, you are right in your own way. So am I right on my own way. That was Mdladlana. Therefore, I know and I so believe, because he was my closest friend. Many people didn't understand Mdladlana. Many people didn't understand Mdladlana. It's because Mdladlana wayengumntana wesingcobo. Let's go further and hear about this giant. Mdladlana. Mdladlana was a teacher, and we started on the same year, although I was older than him. He was teaching at Vukukanya Primary School. And as he was teaching there, the way the teachers were treated in those days, it was different, especially the high school teachers and the secondary school teachers. The primary school teachers, remember, the people who were the masters, who were managers, they were elderly people, what we call the old guard. And because of Mdladlana's behavior, he was very much inquisitive. He was questioning everything. And then this did not suit well to the Principals Association. With Mdladlana, we formed a club which was called Vulindlela, which was anti-crime. And then this was run at Moriva Church in NY 15. And later, because of Mdladlana's skills, there was what we call SATU, which was a teachers' organization. And the full name was Southwestern African Teachers Association. And because this organization was actually run by the elderly people, Mdladlana said, let us create a youth for SATU. And then we formed the Youth for SATU. Mdladlana, as the program director has said, he introduced the Boy Scout in his school. And he was with Reverend Meana. And then this didn't suit well to his principal because he became a popular somebody. As the program director said, they used to walk the street of Guguletu with their bands. Therefore, this didn't suit well to his principal. And again, Mdladlana became a nuisance to the primary school teachers. Because if 1980, there was a sort of slow strike by the secondary school and the high school teachers. And remember, Mdladlana was teaching in a primary school. But Mdladlana joined these teachers who were on a go-slow strike over the medium of Afrikaans instruction. And then he did not only join, he recruited about over 50% from his school, where his work was not appreciated. Mdladlana was an all-rounder. Mdladlana was an actor. Those who remember around 72, 73, there was a play which was running in Guguletu up to the Stellenbosch and Wellington, and it was called So Soon. We were both actors in those plays. That is Mdladlana we're talking about. If we look at Mdladlana, we said the principal, there was what we call the Principals Association. The Principals Association. This Principals Association wasn't happy about the attitude of Mdladlana or his behavior. And then they actually try to force the principal to do something. But at that time, if you remember, they were not the employers. Therefore, they couldn't fire Mdladlana. And then this is what happened. They thought of a plan. They said, this boy is young and troublesome, and he can defend himself. The only way, let us deploy him somewhere. They thought they were going to destroy Mdladlana. They deployed him in New Cross Road. Those who knew New Cross Road at that time, it was a hot spot, highly politicized, and they were united. And moreover, they didn't want somebody that was not from their stable. Therefore, this Principal Association, they thought they were going to destroy Mdladlana. But when he came there, Mdladlana, because they were also people who were questioning the government of the day, Mdladlana gelled well with the community of New Cross Road. Not only with the community, even with the teachers. Therefore, what the Principals Association was actually intending to do didn't happen. That is Mdladlana. And now, by placing Mdladlana there, they thought that they were destroying him. But now they gave him the freedom. They gave him the space where he can maneuver and express himself. That was Mdladlana. At this time, the two of the big six had left teaching because of frustration. I'm not going to tabulate them. But the two of the big six had left teaching. And then Mdladlana, in 1983, he went to check for us. It was me and Claim Ding. Me at that time, I was working for the so-called union, which was the Engineering Industrial Workers Union. Then I joined him at Andile Primary School. At this time, we said we had this organization which was called SWATA, Southwestern African Teachers Association. It was purely for the blacks. SWATA, at this stage, it was divided into three. There was a Langa branch, there was a Nyanga branch, and there was a Kuguleti branch. And the Nyanga branch was called Nyatu, which means Nyanga African Teachers Union. And I and Shepherd were at this branch of Nyatu. This was a mistake that was done by SWATA, because now Mdladlana was elected as the president of Nyatu. You always have his big brother next to him. And then I was appointed as his treasurer. That's where the trouble started. Mdladlana, when he was the president of Nyatu, what he did, he was able now to break the organization within. And then he destroyed the organization. And then he started what has been mentioned by the program director, a SATU. And then on the other side, that is of the station, you always on the other side of the railway, we were in Kukuletu, they had what is called WECTU. And then in the formation of this SATU, there were three people who were very much important. It was Patrick Ngukuvana. He assisted in the formation of that. And Mondembekwa, and I don't know whether program director, this guy is still around Cape Town, Tere Tulwana. Those were the people who formed SATU. And SATU developed, and then they formed what is called SATU. And SATU was formed in 1990, and Shepherd became the first president of SATU. I said when I started, Mdladlana was mostly feared by people because he speaks his mind. He was not afraid to tell you the truth. Even his family, some family members, they know themselves. When they are having a problem, they'll always say, call Usbarwaki. And Usbar Shepherd, because I married Umadlamini. And then, when I go there, I'll talk to him. That's one thing you wouldn't do to Shepherd, is to address him in public. But if you call him privately and talk to him, he was a soft and a humble guy. Now in closing, program director, I would say to the Dlaminis, the giant Shepherd Mdladlana, umntwana wesingcobo, has fallen. But that's one thing, he loved you. And I would come and say, Simile Membathisi loved you. Spelele Mpumzi loved you. Monde Shepherd loved you. I'm almost there. To all the children of Mdladlana whom I didn't make mention of, they must know that Membathisi Shepherd Mdladlana loved them. To the Andile staff, Mdladlana loved you. To the Uniting Presbyterian congregants, Mdladlana loved you. SATU, Mdladlana loved you. To the ANC, Mdladlana loved you. South Africans, Mdladlana loved you. But the only difference is that he loved you differently, not the way you love people. With those words, I say, hamba kahle zizi, hamba ngoxolo, shape izizi. Thank you, Program Director. I'm done.
Siyabulela ku Tisha Mgumane. I was in a meeting on Monday and we were told by the presidency that an official state funeral is a funeral of the president and the family. What a good way to tell us that ANC anina speaker ngalamin. So I'm raising this issue because you know, I just got a program, we are going to proceed from there to our next speaker. Now that the speaker, someone who was esikolweni andile, our next speaker is Abanguba Upalfo, but just a little story. There was a very good teacher at Andile Primary School. Very, very good. There's a lot of teachers who were in that school. I was a teacher there and the speaker that has just parted. But this speaker had a particular weakness. Ndiyabona nge-weekend wayethanda kwezinye indawo angakwazi uza esikolweni Monday, you know. So there was this day that this teacher, whilst wayenza worse, he was not at school for 3 weeks. And so the rumor amongst teachers was, yo, uzawuthi shungu Shapey. It was called Shapey at that time. And we heard that principal uzamgxotha buya kwakhe. Andalmanje imbiza nalo tishara. So this teacher arrived after 3 weeks. This was a man of God. Very angry, he called him to his office. All of a sudden, we're all called together as teachers to the staff room. And then Principal Mdladlana says to us, I want us to break soon. Allow the children today to go home. There's an unfortunate happening. Utishar uvaza yo, utishar. Utishara ex uswelekelwe ngumama akhe. So we have to travel. Zonke izono zakhe zixolele. And so we drove. We arrived at this house. And the teacher does not stay in Guguletu. stays somewhere, Paarl, Worcester. So we arrive in this house. This teacher is not there yet. No cell phones at that time. Whilst we are still sitting, utisha umkhulu ezawuvula inkonzo, ikhali phone edongeni. Chen, nangu National Commissioner kandimbona. Ikhali phone edongeni. Ithi xa ikhala usister katishara ayibambi phone. So we're sitting here. Sive usister katishara sithi awuncingi sebelapha nawuxoxa. Loosely translated, the sister says, no, I'm not going to lie, they are here already. And the teacher was lying. That's why I can't disclose the name of the teacher. But I think now that the principal, Mdladlana, is gone, I'm sure that teacher is welcoming him wherever they are, and they are laughing over this incident, which was ages ago. On that note, I don't like talking about death, but I am so happy, Comrade Balfour, you are still alive. The nation was shocked when we got news of your unfortunate departure from earth. We were so relieved when you then had to do a voice note telling South Africa that it is a lie, I am still alive. Please come and speak to us, Pau Balfour. Esihambayo, esihamba, esihambayo, esihamba, habomelele, 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 habomele, esihambayo, esihambayo. Kazi ujayiva mna. Esihambayo. Kazi ujayiva.
How many minutes? 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Esihambayo, esihambayo, habomelele, 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 esihambayo, 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 habomelele, 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 esihambayo, 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 habomelele, 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 habomelele. Basieni.
Molweni bantu basekhaya. Ndiyabulisa kumuntu wonke othetha isiNgesi nothetha isiXhosa. Kanti ke nandigudi kweAfrikaans. Yiloo nto ndineseneme nguBalfour nje. Ingqanga neentsiba zayo. Namhlanje ke ndithezeke amandla. Bekhe andaziva ndisemandleni inyanga ezidlulileyo. Kodwa intsukwana nje phambi kwanamhlanje bendiziva ndisemandleni as strong as an ox. Inoba yiloo nto ndiyijayiva kuba xa ndithi inde le ndlela inde nyhani. And ayifuni mabhetyebhetye. Ifuna abantu abaqinileyo. Umembathisi unditheza amandla. Bese ndiqhayisa ngalamandla am bandinawo. Kodwa ke ndawuva le nto ndathezeka amandla. Ndizowumapha nje. Ndiyafuna ke into yoba ndiziqinise. Ngeentongana zam endiziqinisa ngazo. Sikuyo indlela yelizwe. Ewe ikhaya laba abahleli sikuyo indlela ewe yelizwe ndijikeleza apha ndihle ndinyuka. Ndikhumbula kude xa ndiculela lo mfo ndicula inhliziyo yami imhlophe kuba ndiculela indoda enkonzo. Ndicula indodana umdala ikhwahla lasenkonzweni. Andiculi nje. Ndinethemba ke loba nakwabanye abahamba inkonzo sawucula ngolu hlobo. Mandibulise ke kumuntu wonke. Ndibulise kwi-colleagues zami endizibonayo nabantu bekhaya. Ndibona udadethu omdala phaa uSisinaledi ukhona. Ndiyaqonda uba nawungatsho ukuthi molo sisi. Ukwenzela into yoba nam ndizive ndisekhaya. Ingathi kanti ndithetha nje ndithetha into ezingekhoyo. Thank you, Program Director. I feel so honored to be given this great opportunity to speak about a remarkable man, a father, a mentor, a great friend I have known for most of my life. As some would have seen how I poured my heart out to those that broke the news about his departure in despair and disbelief, and I thought by now the lump in my throat would have gone away. Akuvumi ukuba mandithule. Akuvumi ndithule yo. Akuvumi uba ndithule Hey, akuvu. Ha, akuvu. Bandi. Ewe, akuvu. Oh, ingwele. This jewel has shaped so many professional lives and all those that came through his hands. They were raw, pompous, vibrant, and energetic. They couldn't have asked for a better mentor than Membathisi, whose royal English and calmness of his voice hindered even in tense times of our work. While he lived, his humility, his self-effacing ways, his constant humor, his loyalty to principle, his avoidance. Yabona kukhula kunjalo ungazi noba uthathe eliphi iphepha. In self-serving theatrical flourish, his refusal to be defeated in certainty, the certainty of very being carried of the inevitability of the realization of our hopes, they brought light and joy to all our nights of despair. The gods themselves would lose their patience with us if we permitted that time should persuade us that this jewel of our crown has lost its sparkle, merely because the soil we tread will have taken into its bosom the small wooden house that Membathisi Mdladlana now occupies. Some of you are what you are today because of his teaching, his mentoring. Membathisi was a genius, a polished, schooled and educated administrator and politician par excellence, sophisticated and polite character. Having served the movement, the ANC, and the people of South Africa in a sterling manner with great aplomb, he was never spared of what we've become accustomed to nowadays, that those that are excelling draw negative vibes to their principles. Thus, some others nominate themselves for ill treatment and frustration. He did this with the utmost humility and respect, and has taught us to humble ourselves even in time of despair. His zealous commitment, devotion against all adversities has without doubt given him favors of God. Thank you, God, thank you. Thank you, Mdladlana family, for having blessed us with him as a friend and comrade, a colleague and a mentor. Membathisi lies in his small house of wood, cold and still and without a voice. In closing, there are two fundamental principles that Membathisi instilled in us, that we should refrain from shrinking ourselves in order to fit in places we have outgrown. Secondly, good decisions come from experience, but experience comes from bad decisions sometimes. This is life. So never regret, learn from mistakes, and go ahead. He taught us this, and all of it, most of those that went through his hands, and is still holding the fort with great aplomb, will forever be indebted to him, appreciative of his teachings, and forever miss him. Rest easy, rest in peace, Dlamini, Zizi, Jamakas Jadu, Fakade, Nomana, Dabazithethwa, Insuku ngensuku. You are gone, you will live forever in our hearts. Diabulela.
Thank you very much. I thank you very much, Baunonja. The next speaker is from SATU, to speak about the founding president of SATU or to pay tribute. I want, hold on. I just want to say this. After SATU, the tribute will be from Doc. So immediately when SATU finishes Doc, you come without any interference. And then after that, without any interference, want to make sure that at 10 to 1, the Deputy President is speaking to us. Ungatsho ke?
Mandla. Thank you, Program Director. Mandibulise kwi-family katata Mdladlana. The Deputy President, Utata Paul Mashatile, ministers and former ministers present, the leadership of the African National Congress, the leadership of the Alliance and the Democratic Movement, religious and community leaders present, comrades and friends. I am standing here to deliver a message of condolence on behalf of the National Executive Committee of the South African Democratic Teachers Union. We are gathered here to remember a teacher and a revolutionary professional, the founding president of the South African Democratic Teachers Unions. Our hearts are heavy, but we are also here to celebrate a worthy life, because Utata Mdladlana did not only live for himself, but he was of service to the people of this country. The life of Comrade Mdladlana is filled with many lessons, as has been indicated by a lot of speakers here before me. Lessons from which we must draw inspiration. So on behalf of the South African Democratic Teachers Union and all teachers across the country, I convey my deepest sympathies to the family Katata Mdladlana on the loss of their father, brother, husband, and grandfather. I convey my sympathies to the leadership and members of the African National Congress, and to the leadership and members of SATU, as Utata Mdladlana served both institutions with integrity. We have lost a respected leader, a comrade, a mentor, a teacher, and a compatriot. Utata Mdladlana had already left the teaching profession when I started teaching in the mid-90s. However, there are a lot of lessons that our generation can learn from the life and his leadership. He knew the power of education as a tool which could change the lives of children of the poor and the working class. to become key players to develop our country politically, socially, and economically. Utata would have supported the efforts of teachers and education workers across the country to continue to resist government's efforts on job cuts. He would have encouraged us to continue to struggle for job security. He would have been proud of us for being in the forefront of the fight against austerity measures. Comrade Mdladlana was a true servant of the people who wanted to see the lives of South Africans changing for the better. He served SATU and the people of South Africa diligently. His contribution in building SATU will never be forgotten. As a union, we commit to preserve his legacy by ensuring that SATU remains united. Diyabulela kakhulu.
Good afternoon. Mandikhahlele kuzo zonke izidwangube ezikhoyo kule ndawo sikuyo. Ndikhahlele ku-Deputy President. Ndilibulise usapho lakwaMdladlana. Ndiza kwenza amagqabantshintshi. I will be short, I may be tall. This is the tribute to Utata Mdladlana. Our journey goes back over 30 years, during the dark days of the mid-80s, when our townships were burning. He entrusted me with the care of himself and his family. That evolved into a lasting friendship, and that duty was finalized on the 18th of October at 11:15, when the final curtain fell. It was a stormy Tuesday, the 16th of July, when I heard a persistent cough in the waiting room of my rooms. When I went out to see who it was, I was shocked to see him in the state he was in. Being the person he was, he still had a moment to joke. Athi, utata ubesakuthi, unyuka intaba. Uthi, ndinyuka intaba, Chief. It was a miracle that he drove himself from Pinelands to Guguletu. It was an untenable situation that needed more than urgent action. He was sick. He was hypoxic. You know, the oxygen saturation, that is the blood oxygen saturation, was 76. It was a miracle that he was still able to talk. Time, okay. An ER24 ambulance was called. I knew that it was going to take time, and time was what we didn't have. You know, we are under siege in our townships. Ambulances have to be escorted to get into our townships. Whenever we go to work, we don't know if we will come back. I arranged a bed in ICU, and I informed the pulmonologist. I had to put him into my car and drive him and leave everybody else and drive him to hospital. So he was admitted into ICU. You know, I'm not supposed to divulge the condition of a person, but because of the complacence that we are having and the belief that COVID-19 is gone, I would like to stress that unfortunately, he was the victim of the COVID-19. His recovery was very slow because of the level of the oxygen in his blood. You know, he had all the complications, but through it all, though the recovery was slow, you know, he was very positive. All the challenges, despite all the challenges, he remained a positive but realistic. He prepared those around him for the worst, and like the true leader he was, or he has been, he gave direction as to what to be done in case of eventuality. He loved and respected his people, his family, his home in Qoboqobo, eziNcuka. We often say esiXhoseni, kula ndawo ke ndandisuka kuyo bekukho into ethi ukufundisa umntana ngamanye amaxesha kufana nokuthenela ikati ekhaya. Ikati ke siyayazi into yokuba ngaba ibithenelwa endle ukuze ibuye ize ekhaya. Zangabe njalo. He remained engwaseQoboqobo, though ebeseGugulethu. While he was in hospital, because he respected his home, he loved his people. You know, he wanted to go to Qoboqobo to pay his last respect to Umama Umakhumalo. You know, this caused a lot of anxiety to his kids. And of course, he wouldn't listen. I was asked to intervene. And the last time we were talking, I left him saying, "Ndizawuke ndiyicamngce le nto uyithethayo." And that journey yaseQoboqobo ended up in Plettenberg Bay with Usoni because he wanted to get out of Cape Town. And I'm glad he did so. He used to enjoy the trips to the surgery because where he knew everybody by name, he would wait and give a chance to Sika and older patients. He showed by example how to look after the weak. Indeed, he was the role model and the champion of service to the community. He was accessible and humble. Of course, there were hilarious moments that he enjoyed at the surgery. And one of the stories that comes to mind, you know, ebeno itas or ibag ebethanda ukuyixwaya. Ndicinga uba ke zonke izinto zakhe bezigcinwa in that bag. So this day usesurgery. And then as I was coming out, to take his folder and call him inside. Then there was a lady, or Ikajazan, who came in. And then she walked to me, and the question was, Usantanda? I was taken aback. And then the next thing, she directed the questions to Utatu Mdladlana. And she said, inhlele bheki yakho ubuyithatha phi? He answered, uthi hayi ndiyibile. And then the lady said, oh, ungakube mna nje undifaka apha kule bag. Those were the light moments. The same bag has caused problems for him. When he was admitted, of course, he had that bag. And unfortunately, they didn't empty the bag and check what was inside the bag. He took the bag along and it was kept next to him whilst he was in the ward. Somebody, I don't know how, but they discovered that there is an okapi, a knife in that bag. Of course, it caused a lot of concern, but he had to answer. Because esiXhoseni, indoda, xa iba indoda, inikwa imela. So they wouldn't understand that. Okay. So there was that misunderstanding, which even led to the fact that he didn't want to go back to hospital. He didn't want to honor his, because he was supposed to go back for reviews. So he was very reluctant. So I had to do that duty, to look after him at home. You know, one of the things that he has done in his final, you know, the 3 months illness, it was quite stormy. But despite all that, he enjoyed good time with his kids. I want to thank Usmile for coming back to stay with your dad and being the director during the time of his illness. I want to say to Soni, well done. Dlamini. Thank you for your being the ultimate caregiver. You gave the best service diligently to your dad. Those blood pressure and glucose monitoring twice a day. And also being the best cook of the family. And also your vigilance, because you were the one who saw that your dad is in trouble. You are the one who was with your daddy during the last minutes of his life. Amahle, you have been the joy of your dad and his project. He still had the unfinished business, and we must know that all will be well. To all his children, your dad has built and left you with a big family, and you will never walk alone. Kumbutho, mandisho ukuthi he was a faithful servant. He was faithful to the last minute. Liqhawe elifunge alajika ndithi makalale ngoxolo uDlamini, makalale ngoxolo uZizi, makalale ngoxolo uJama, uGqatso ulufezile. Uyamkelwa otata uThambo, otata uHani, otata uMadiba, oMandela, bonke they bow their heads. Thank you.
Oh, it's not easy. This is the doctor. We are going to have a musical item as we welcome our next speaker. I'm reminded of the story of the Okapi. Uthina njazi was the outer segooks. Bafuna uthatha le Okapi yami. Are you ready? Yes. At the present, whilst they are dressing up, let me acknowledge the presence in our midst of the Minister of Finance, Uba Ukotongwana, and also acknowledge the presence of former Minister Jeff Khatebe in our midst. And I've seen the array of reverends that are here, Mkesha, Diba, and many, many others. And the former chaplain of the African National Congress, Uba Umeana. Over to you. Sister.
bona izwe lakho wethu. Program Director, Honorable Mdladlana Skwacha, His Excellency, Deputy President Paul Mashatile, ngobukho bakho kulamagada ahlabayo. Baninzi ababegodola bebeqhaqhazela amazinyo beqhwatywa liliqhwa nengqele zemeko zobomi. Wabancabela iingubo zakho wabembathisa. Bambi besindwa yimithwalo wawaphungulela wawaphumza. Bathi bekhala besithi kukude inde indlela ngaphambili. Wabayala ngokuphathisana nengentsebenziswano wabaphumza. Njengenkokheli ethembakeleyo nenyaniso enganyolukanga, uthe wakubabona bebhadula imibombo ithe sa, izintsalu wangumalusi wabo. The powerful prayers and wishes of those who named you Membathisi, Mpumzi, Shepherd, Mdladlana were heard, and your journey of life attests to that. Let there be no doubt, therefore. Kandi senjenje ke ndithi kuni bantwana bezizi nosapho ngokubanzi nxe thuthuzelekani ningakhali nizenzakalise akuhlanga lungehlanga lalani ngenxeba hlalani ethembeni. Honorable cabinet ministers that are here, former cabinet ministers, the leadership of the ANC, COSATU, SACP, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. We're here today to celebrate a life so movingly captured in his obituary and many statements that have been made in the build-up to this event. I wish not to restate any of those, but can only summarize a journey of a rural boy of Christian upbringing whose strong connection to the pain of oppression of his people saw him use every station in life to advance their cause of freedom and quench their thirst for liberty. Free you are to address him a politician, trade unionist, teacher, diplomat, and many more, for he was all of those. But please permit me to say this was a true public servant whose bias to the working class was unmistakable to the day he took his last breath. His passing, you might not believe this, so soon after the Minister of Labour, bless his soul, Tito Mboweni, would no doubt have seen his successors in Comrade Mildred Oliphant and Tulas Nglesi rush to the Sangomas to seek assurances that they were not next in line. Just in case the assurances are not forthcoming, you can also assume that a sizable sum of their pension income goes to witch doctors to ensure that there's a steady supply of mutis to fend off all the evil spirit that might be coming in their direction. Now, Mboweni and Mdladlana laid a formidable foundation of a labor market architecture and framework that would ensure that the constitutional promise of a free, equitable, and just society did not leave workers behind. Unlike Mdladlana, the development economist in Mboweni embedded the new blueprint for the overhaul of the labor market as an indispensable part of the framework for the restructuring of the South African economy. Contestation abound, the labor market policy was seen as a fall guy for the country's underperforming economy.
For avoidance of doubt, it must be clear that the progressive post-apartheid labor market policy is a victory of decades of workers' struggles. It is a vindication of the strategic alliance that both the South African Congress of Trade Unions, SATU, and its successor, COSATU, entered into with the liberation movement led by the ANC. I can say this without any fear of contradiction, that this is a badge of honor that the ANC in government can adorn with pride, that it never betrayed the founding objectives of that alliance in these policies, but for the deep, dark, and indelible blotch that the Marikana massacre was. As my dear comrade Zwelinzima Vavi put it in one of the interviews recently, it was always going to make a big difference who the Minister of the Department of Labor was. With a different minister or ministers, we could easily have landed in a very different place. Mdladlana succeeded Mboweni, who had only served 3 years as a Minister of Labor. And be no doubt, these were 3 intense, strategic, and highly pressured years. Mboweni spared neither effort nor strength in meticulously ensuring that we laid a fantastic foundation for what was to be a long and tough journey. His successor, Mdladlana, an unassuming, humble, and principled activist, was to bring a very different but complementary approach to the role. No wonder some, including a few conservative cabinet colleagues, unsuccessfully tried their luck to push back on our labor reform agenda. Unlike Mboweni, the economist, Mdladlana had a penchant for social justice and a zeal to restore workers' dignity that was ferociously trampled upon by both the colonial and the apartheid system. Very few will know that the transformation of the Unemployment Insurance Fund, which was bankrupt, by the way, when he assumed office, is probably one of his most shining examples of success during his tenure as a minister. Ably assisted by UIF Commissioner at the time, Mkonto, Mdladlana managed to transform that institution. Today, the UIF has more money than it knows what to do with. Sitting in Nedlec and engaging government on proposal to establish TERS to support workers in distress during COVID-19 pandemic, we didn't have to scratch our heads wondering where to get the money would come from. UIF had the requisite capacity. They were on hand. It's no mean feat that Mdladlana raised UIF from bankruptcy to a fund with a 160 billion rand reserve in 2020. We must vigilantly safeguard, however, that fund, as too many vultures from within, from others from outside of it, as you can imagine, are hovering to snatch a few billions here and there to take them away for their own selfish purposes. Not only had Mdladlana relented to a growing crescendo of calls against the labor market transformation agenda, including the sectoral wage determination and subsequently its successor, the national minimum wage, he would never have made the evident strides towards decent work. Yes, the journey is still remains long. Workers would have been condemned to work in unsafe spaces and conditions that risk compromising their health and our societal environment. But for the fact that he remained unwavering in his transformation agenda and to turn around and ensure that workers were safe. He stood fast. Yes, the journey remains long. In the face of powerful pushback, a policy intended to end workplace discrimination, which was a legacy of apartheid, and introduce constitutionally mandated redress measures, Mdladlana stood firm, empowering Employment Equity Commission to drive the critical transformation. It is not by accident of history that during his tenure, South Africa witnessed the fastest growth of the black middle class, with many assuming senior management positions, executive roles, as well as occupying positions on boards of corporates and also public sector institutions. Yes, indeed, the journey still remains long, and disappointingly, these gains are being reversed. Like the UIF, COIDA is a viable workers' fund with a healthy balance sheet. The hypocrisy of our detractors was laid bare during the 15-year Mboweni Mdladlana reign in that ministry. Economic growth recorded unprecedented levels, reaching 5.5% in 2007. This says something about what it means to have courageous leaders occupying positions of responsibility. Like a truly disciplined cadre, he appreciated the fact that he was a minister from the same political party as his predecessor, and that Mboweni's program was the program of the party. He not only ensured the success of that transformation mandate, but importantly, invested a lot of effort and time in establishing critical institutions to support the new policy framework. Today, we boast world-class labor market institutions that play an incredibly positive role in our economy beyond dispute resolution. Reading the 2023 annual report of one of the cardinal institutions, like the CCMA, it records saving about 50% jobs in retrench mediations brought before it as an example of the incredible achievements of some of these institutions. Similarly, the Department of Employment and Labor's annual report reveals how extensive the inspectorate of that department is pushing the enforcement of labor standards. The list of these remarkable achievements by a loyal and unflinchingly dedicated cadre of our movement is longer than time permits me to dwell on. 12 solid years of hard grinding work as the minister. Complacency may very well be the biggest enemy. After all, none of these advances are irreversible. Aware of the fiscal constraints that we have to contend with, it must remain our concern that the declining capacity of the Labour Inspectorate and recently announced pending retrenchments at CCMA risk setting many of these gains back. Mdladlana, a strong advocate of social partnership, employed NEDLEC to ensure that critical players in society, particularly labor and business, had a voice in the consideration of all policies that had social and economic impact. Today, NEDLEC stands as an internationally recognized best-in-class institution for social dialogue. In a compelling and typically measured tribute to Tito Mboweni, David Lewis makes a motivation for a monument in his honor at the Reserve Bank, Minister of Finance. Please allow me to similarly invite government through you, Deputy President, Honorable Deputy President, as I urge other social partners similarly to resolve to rename labor market institution that hosts most of us, the CCMA House, after this great servant of our people as a token of the nation's appreciation for his sterling contribution. Like many of us, Mdladlana was bitterly pained by ANC's avoidable electoral decline in May 2024. And that is because there is no clear alternative that is capable of being entrusted with the progressive agenda outlined above and much more. It was a setback because we failed to show leadership, act decisively, and cleanse the organization of the corrupt and unscrupulous elements, and courageously drive organizational renewal. Unless we seize the strategic initiative from counter-revolutionary forces, in 2029, we will not be burying comrades, but the liberation movement itself as we've come to know it. Misguidedly, in my view, we're engaged in an unproductive yet divisive debate about the efficacy of the GNU. In other instances, we seem so desperate to showcase it as a success or as if it is a realistic alternative to a trustworthy ANC government capable of staying true to the objectives of the National Democratic Revolution. We must accept that the GNU is only an interregnum where no one has exclusive power. It is a no man's land. It is a no man's land. It is a station of tactical retreat from which we can emerge either strong or weaker. It's all in our hands. We must confront the very real difficult questions about our movement that alienate us from our people. We may very well have to accept that we have entered an era of new politics whose agenda and direction we may not entirely be familiar with. This makes it more urgent that we encourage the nation to be in conversation about itself and its future, and the urgent reforms required to enable a transition that is in the best interest of the people. Many have, over the years, called for such an engagement, ranging from national convention to a national dialogue. As tensions in the GNU continue to show, we may very well be losing valuable time and space in these unexplained delays. Lalo ngoxolo kwedini yakuqoboqobo kwanto zophukayo dlamini jama sijadu lala ngoxolo zizi fakade enxibini oboya phumla dweba njokweni Mdladlana qhatso ulifezile siyazidla siyazinca sinebhongo sineqhayiya ngawe ubuligorha phakathi kwamagwala lala ngoxolo mntakwethu amawethu aza kwamkela ngezandla ezishushu hamba kahle mkhonto amandla mayibuye aluta
Amandla! Amandla! Yeah. Akunzima uba ngu-program director. Now we are now about to enter a space of osingaye. I said so mosqala. Cela as umama uMatiwane esondela. Nditsho ndithi ndicela asondele. I explained to you when we started that we were told that such a funeral, an official state funeral, is for the presidency and the family. Now the family is going to be speaking. Tribute by Sister Katisha Mdladlana. No. Ndingamazi uba eloquent kangaka. Ndimveko lesithathu. Is that okay?
All right.
Ndizakunika malixole, zakunika. Ima ibambe tata.
Okay. The program director, I greet you, program director. Also, my deputy president, president of the country, Paul Mashatile, the ministers present, the mayors, national commissioners. Good one. Okay. And the distinguished guests, I greet you all this afternoon. I'm Nomkhululi Mdladlana Matiwane. I'm going to talk about my brother, Sashielana Ibele. We have gathered here today to celebrate and to honor him as a family man, as a family man of his house. Membathisi Mdladlana was born in 1952, as it was indicated. He was the 7th child out of 11 siblings. There are only 2 left. Membathisi was born in Kiskamahuk, Ezinguka, Mzansi, in the Eastern Cape, where he was nurtured as an African boy. Family circumstances made his parents to relocate him to his maternal grandparents at Debenek. And I remember during the Group Areas Act of 1950, his parents, as they were workers, were given a residential place in Guguletu. They were moved, and then they decided to relocate uMembathisi kwakhona from the Debenek to eGuguletu, where he started schooling. He then started schooling at Ilita Lower Primary and Siviwe Higher Primary, and obtained his junior certificate at Fezeka Secondary School. That time, he completed his junior certificate within 2 years. That time in Fezeka, he started to be in Fezeka in 1968, and then completed his junior certificate in 1980 in 2 years. Remember that time, the 3 years, if you were so clever at Fezeka, you were given a time to complete your JC in 2 years. That time, there was a test that was written. So because of his caliber and because of the fact that he was clever, that March test, the test was written in March, and then from March you were then promoted to a second year and joined the second year student, even if you started in that year. uMembathisi started then to challenge the inequalities even before he went to the Teachers College in Lovedale. When he came back as a teacher, his parents, uDlamini, was very proud, and we could see the excitement of the father having a teacher within the family. What happened is that Membathisi stayed at home, and he started to not be at home because he had other issues as a teacher. As a young, vibrant teacher, he organized boys group, and he was the scoutmaster then in the community, and he started to become known. Like father, like son, he would do the home chores, and his environment was always kept in pristine condition. And then my brother ended up not being at home sometimes, as he started to teach at Vukukanye Primary. And the parents would ask his whereabouts. And he decided with his colleagues to stay at Vukukanye. In Vukukanye, there are residents as Paya. So with other colleagues, they stayed at Vukukanye, trying to do whatever they wanted to do. And he loved to argue. And mostly, he would win an argument. His family was his first love. And above all, he loved his children. He frequently visited his family in the Eastern Cape. Hence, they are here today. We are really appreciating you, Mazizi. You came all the way from Eastern Cape to honor one of your own. What I want to say, Bantwana baka Membathisi, you have seen your father, you cared for your father. You have seen his health deteriorating. And you were there during his last hour. I really love you for that. Because my brother was never alone. You were there all the time. And then my brother, Soni, you were there. And you saw him falling down. What I want to say, Lala Mzukulwana Kangwekas, Lala Dlamini, Lala Kap, Lala Chubungulash, Lala Zenya, Lala Kukulamakwala, Lala Lunika, Umzamomhle, Uzamile, Yaye uqatso ulfezi. And now ulindelwe luphumlo lwana phakade lala kakuhle qaba enkosi.
Thank you very much, Kumama. We will gallop our next item now. As the children come up, the choir will render just one item, whilst the children would be walking up. Please, choir, over to you. Just one item. I think we are getting there. We are getting there.
I'd like to take this opportunity to greet His Excellency, the Deputy Vice President of the Republic of South Africa, former and current cabinet ministers, former and current deputy ministers. Allow me to say all protocol observed. Standing here before you are the children of Membathisi Mdladlana. I think for most people, they know me, Usimile, his one and only daughter whom I know when I was younger. These are stories I used to hear. He used to take me everywhere. But there are actually 6 of us. And as you can see, I am heavily, heavily guarded. I have 5 brothers, and they stand behind me. I'd like to introduce them. So the firstborn is Umonde, and then the brother that comes after me is Usonele, and then the youngest is Uamahle, and then the brother that comes before me is Ubrian, and then the second born is Ujo. Siphelele ke ngoku xa nisibona apha. I think another thing you can observe is that we all look alike. My dad's Dlamini genes were very strong. And as you can see, my brothers are very handsome. I stand here today feeling rather emotional, but strong at the same time. To speak of my dad in the past tense is rather difficult. But having been raised by him, we were taught to be tough from a very young age. So I hope I will do him proud and stand here and say what I have to say. My dad was a disciplinarian, both at home and in all his work fronts. One of my fondest memories of my dad was probably school holidays. He was a very busy man, so most of the time he was never home. But he made sure that when we were off school, whether it was June or December, he would spend quality time with his kids. I was the child who wanted to go everywhere. So even on some of his international trips, I'd be there tagging along. Few of the things that I can say that I've learned from my dad is punctuality was one of them. My dad could not stand latecomers. He used to say that if you were on time, you were late, but if you were 5 minutes early, you were on time. Another thing that he made sure that we knew is to be independent. Being the only girl, he used to be like, he used to tell me, sorry. He used to say that, oh, sorry guys. Independent, we should always be able to stand on our own 2 feet. Can you take over? You can take over.
Okay.
Yeah, can you take over, please?
So where am I starting from? Just,
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Okay.
the speech is for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Take your time, love.
Okay, sorry about that. All right. Yeah, so those were some of the traits that my dad instilled in us.
I'm not going to be able to read the speech that you wrote for your dad. Sikhona silapha.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. It's proving to be rather difficult. So the past few months have been really tough on us as a family. My dad was really ill, but through that, he made sure we were strong enough to be able to stand here today and commemorate his memory. I'm just going to skip to the end of my speech. Dad, we will miss so much about you. We will miss your hugs. We will miss Sunday mornings when you would listen to your jazz music on loud blasts. We will miss you walking around the house singing. We would miss the way you used to sneeze so loud. And also your laughter. My dad was a very funny man. The stories he would tell us, if you would sit down with him, you would literally chat with him for 2 to 3 hours and without realizing that time had gone by. I am so proud to stand here as one of his children. He has done a lot for his organization, SATU, the African National Congress, the country as a whole. We shared him with all of you. The house now is quiet. We are only left with memories, your teachings, and we will try by all means to make sure that your legacy lives on. Rest now, Dad. Lala Dlamini, Zizi, Jamakas Jadu, Fakade, Ngibinoboya, Sohlala Sikhumbula. Ngos.
Amandla! Long live the spirit of Comrade Mdladlana, long live. Siyabulela kakhulu kubo abantwana. It is never an easy moment. We do understand. Mdala, mdala. Mdala, mdala, okhokho bethu uzunga mntwana ungakhali mntwana lo mzabalazo mdala waqalwa ukhona lo mzabalazo waqalwa uzungani nomzabalazo waqalwa nomzabalazo waqalwa nomzabalazo waqalwa nomzabalazo waqalwa nomzabalazo dala waqalwa nomzabalazo dala waqalwa nomzabalazo dala waqalwa nomzabalazo amandla as we welcome the Deputy President, Mapolo asitata phe esingaka Mapolo asitata phe esingaka esakuyithatha iAfrika ayenzeyawo sokuyithatha iAfrika ayenzeyawo Mapolo asithatha phi esingaka Mapolo asithatha phi esingaka esakuyithatha iAfrika ayenzeyawo sokuyithatha iAfrika ayenzeyawo emasiwele Limpopo emasiwele Limpopo bos skokhele singene Pitoli singene Pitoli Tambo skokhele Tambo skokhele singene khaya phila Phila ngona phakade moya katata Mdladlana phila ngona phakade. Our Deputy President is now taking the platform. Over to you, Nkokeli Siyabonga.
Thank you very much, Program Director. The Mdladlana family and relatives and the children, ministers and deputy ministers, former ministers, deputy ministers here present, members of parliament and provincial legislatures, councillors, the commissioner of the South African Police Service, members of the SAPS, leaders of the African National Congress here present, leadership of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, the trade union movement in general, the Alliance, and the Mass Democratic Movement. Members of the diplomatic corps, religious leaders, and community leaders, comrades and friends. I stand before you today with a heavy heart to bid farewell to this great politician, a teacher, an activist of our time, Membathisi Mdladlana, who will be remembered for among other things, ensuring that the education system in our country is transformed and is run effectively. His passing is another enormous loss for his family, for the country, and for the democratic movement as a whole. To those among us who have sipped from the well of his wisdom and insight, we extend our gratitude to his family for the grace of sharing him with us through both trials and triumphs. In recent times, we have had to part ways with many of our guiding stars, companions, allies, and cherished souls who have traversed the tumultuous journey to illuminate the way towards our democracy. They belonged to an illustrious generation of revolutionaries and servant leaders whose contribution to the liberation and development of South Africa remains immeasurable. These stalwarts set themselves on a course to liberate South Africa from tyranny. What brings us solace and profound delight is that, unlike many of their comrades, they have tasted freedom in their days. A tale I trust they shall weave upon reaching the other side, recounting to those who were not graced with such fortune to behold it. Those who have recently departed achieved their mission and fulfilled their personal destinies. Yet their work, our work, is not yet complete. The South Africa of true equality for all is still to be realized. Just as embers from a fading fire can be used to ignite a new flame, we must take forward the cause to which so many dedicated their lives, the complete liberation of South Africa and its people. Membathisi Mdladlana was one of the leading lights in our struggle for liberation. A gentle, unassuming disposition masked great reserves of inner strength. He was indeed the embodiment of resilience. His life provided a lesson in the true nature of social justice, that one must seek for others what you seek for yourself. It is little wonder that he was drawn to the labor movement from the earliest days of his career. He understood that a thriving economy depends on the well-being of its workers. He fought to ensure that South Africa's workforce received fair treatment and protection under the law. During his tenure, he fully implemented the Basic Conditions of Employment Act of 1997, one of the most significant pieces of legislation in our country. This act guaranteed fair working hours, decent wages, and safeguards against exploitation of workers. In tandem with the Labour Relations Act of 1995, these laws strengthened workers' rights and provided a clear framework for resolving labor disputes, which led to a reduction in industrial action and improved labor relations. As an activist, a unionist, and a leader, Membathisi Mdladlana was able to transcend an unjust system. He did it not for his own personal gain, but for the benefit and improvement of others. He always reiterated the rallying cry that an injury to one is an injury to all. This call inspired him, strengthened him, and gave him courage. He was born into a world that sought to define his prospects. It was a world designed to deny every black child the opportunity to develop and thrive. Membathisi was just 1 year old when in 1953, the apartheid regime passed one of its most damaging laws, the Bantu Education Act. The drafters of this despicable law were clear on its intent. The then Minister of Native Affairs, H.F. Verwoerd, in explaining the rationale for the law, had the following to say: the Bantu must be guided to serve his own community in all respects. There is no place for him in the European community above the level of certain forms of labor. Close quote. There is no place for him in the European community above the level of certain forms of labor. That was Verwoerd. This was the world Membathisi Mdladlana was born into. Yet he ultimately defied it. He walked by faith rather than sight, as stated in the Great Book. He hoped and believed that South Africa would one day be free, and certainly it is today. However, Bantu education would have a lasting impact on generations of black children. The man we lay to rest today was at the forefront of that struggle. He received Bantu education as a child. He experienced its injustices firsthand, growing up in the former Bantu stand of the Ciskei. Membathisi would go on to train as a teacher. In line with the philosophy of Bantu education, training for black teachers was of a lower standard than that provided to white teachers. When he completed his training and found work as a teacher, he entered a system where black teachers earned less, had fewer social benefits, and taught under worse conditions than their white counterparts. But Membathisi would not surrender to a grim fate. He chose to fight for change. He chose to fight for the transformation of education and the transformation of our society. He was a gifted person. He began by organizing teachers in Gugulethu and Crossroads in the late 80s, a time when the various teachers' organizations were deeply divided along racial lines, as some of the speakers said earlier. He was an organizer and a leader in the Southwestern African Teachers Association, the Peninsula African Teachers Association, and the Cape African Teachers Union. He played a key role in the establishment of the South African Democratic Teachers Union in 1990 and spearheaded the negotiations that resulted in the union's official recognition. The declaration by SATU of a national teacher strike in 1993 was a pivotal moment in our journey to democracy. As it has been written, this was the first time a teachers' organization assumed a center stage in the education struggle in pre-democracy South Africa. It demonstrated the militancy of teachers in pursuit of better conditions of service and a transformed education system with free, quality public education at its core. With Membathisi at the helm, the union tirelessly campaigned for the rights also of female workers and for them to enjoy the same rights as their male counterparts. This is a proud legacy that continues to this day. In its tribute to its founding president, SATU had spoken of his conviction that teacher struggles should not undermine nor derail their mandate of delivering quality education. As SATU said, he saw teachers as revolutionary professionals with an invaluable role to play in bringing about a more just, inclusive society. He is known to have often said, and I quote, "We can teach and strike at the same time." Now we know that he would have said this because he knew that while it was important to fight for teachers' rights, whether it's fair wages, proper conditions of work, but he knew that teachers must not compromise teaching of the children. We can teach and strike at the same time. We must take heed of his words at a time when our education system still faces a number of challenges and when educators work under difficult conditions. We urge teachers as they fight for better conditions to always remember those words. We can teach and strike at the same time. Taking forward the revolutionary principles of the democratic movement does not mean straying from our greater mandate to serve the people of South Africa. In 1994, upon the inauguration of the first democratic parliament, his country called upon him to serve. He responded without hesitation. Membathisi Mdladlana was part of the drafting committee of the Bill of Rights, the bedrock of our constitutional order today. As a lifelong champion of human rights, it was fitting to assign him that responsibility. Fellow mourners, we have lost one of the architects of the new South Africa. Membathisi's life teaches us a lot. It teaches us about servant leadership. It teaches us about an enduring commitment to public service without regard for personal gain. Wherever his movement or his government deployed him, he served with diligence and integrity. He served under 4 presidents of the democratic dispensation. This reveals a great deal about his character and the faith and regard he had for his people. He hated injustice and took a stand against it wherever he saw it. He served as a Minister of Labour at a time when we had only just begun implementing the laws to protect all workers and their rights. A former staff member who served under him speaks about weeks spent crisscrossing the country, visiting farms, factories, and mines to meet workers. He convened the first national program for the elimination of silicosis, a deadly lung disease that affects workers, particularly in the mining and construction sectors. During the apartheid years, black workers received no protection from employers or the state. Those who got ill were simply dismissed and sent home to die. A democratic government implemented laws to promote workplace health and safety and to offer social support to employees who became ill or injured when on duty. These are just some of the policies of redress Membathisi was tasked with implementing. As a champion of social justice, he advocated for these laws tirelessly. We learn from his life about principled leadership in difficult times. He was a teacher when South Africa was undergoing profound political social change. His life is a lesson on the importance of building bridges and uniting people. Today, Program Director, we live in a free country. Yet we still have to navigate complex challenges. We still have to realize a fully transformed and equal education system. The unity of the South African people remains our highest aspiration, despite the fluctuations in our national life. As political parties in this country, we may not always agree on the best road to get there, but we share a common goal. And that goal is achieving a better South Africa, achieving a South Africa that all of us can call home. And this can be done through greater collaboration and unity. As we lay Membathisi to rest, we should be inspired by his legacy. To the family, to the children and relatives, we share your sorrow. Please take comfort in the knowledge that he will be sorely missed as a loyal cadre of our movement, as a dedicated public servant, and also as a fine individual, well-liked and much admired by many. Let us pay tribute to his spirit of embracing the same unwavering dedication and zeal that he embodied in every moment of his journey. May his spirit find tranquility, and may the echoes of his legacy illuminate the path for those yet to come. May we carry with us a new flame, a flame that lights a way to a better South Africa. We strive for a society where everyone should have equal rights, freedom, and opportunities. In the words of Psalm 23, we want to say to Membathisi Mdladlana, may goodness and mercy surely follow you. May you dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Lala ngotolo Dlamini, lala ngotolo Zizi. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Imzabalaz. And wayekhona nyani. Someone was talking here. I have been advised by the family that the vote of thanks is going to be made by Mr. Mdladlana Mdladlana. So as he comes, someone was speaking about the early days of Pet Moguvana and about Tulwan. And I was looking around, seeing some people they were reporting to outside, Some people who were big terrorists at that time, so to speak. Baumehana, that freedom song is very touchy. The one that says, Lomzabalazo waqalwa ngokhokho bethu. When I look around and see Oba Upalo, and many people who are now old can't even walk, and all they did for this land is to fight for freedom. We have a 90-year-old veteran amongst us. 90-year-old. Bawuchawa kophakame nje kube kanye bakubona bu fresh kanjani. 90-year-old. 90-year-old left South Africa in the early 60s. Fought in Wanki, back and still alive. Some of his comrades died in battle. Over to you for a vote of thanks, Baba. We appreciate every effort, Mamuna Lady, that has been played individually by everybody. This freedom has been a collective effort. Indeed. And go start. Alfred Willie. Okay.
God is good all the time. God is good. Mr. Willie, you are blessed. You are blessed. Kasi ndifumane the secret yakho ba. Thank you. Program Director, I greet you in the name of the Lord. I want to say something about the program director. On behalf of the family, ever since we had this problem, it's not a problem as such. We had this a big ugufa. He was with us. He was with us, and even today, he is with us. I thank him for that. It has been a hard, hectic week for the family. We are tired. We are, all of us, as we have seen the kids when they were here. So today, your presence, today is our last day, and today you are making a big difference in our family. Let me greet the President, the Vice President, Paul Mashatile. Say, your presence here comforts us as a family. Your presence here shows us that our uncle has made a big contribution in the liberation of our people in South Africa. We thank you, say. We thank all the ministers, the former ministers, SATU, the police, everybody who's here. We thank you for your coming. Our father, our uncle was like a father to all of us. He was a community man. He loved his community. He loved his community. When he was an elder in his church, he used to visit the sick in the location. He used to make sure that those who were not taking, those who were disadvantaged were looked after. He was a man He was a man. He was a man. He was a disciplinarian. I remember when he was a principal at Andile Primary School. The kids in the New Crossroad wouldn't wear a school uniform after 3 o'clock in front of him, even if they were from the other school. He was a disciplinarian. So, he was a community guy. In the family, there was no occasion, be it a funeral or any ceremony that was conducted by somebody else besides him. And that's one of the things that we will remember him for. He was always there for his family. He was always there for his family. Even if he's not duty, he would come. He would come to anything that we had as a family. Even his bodyguards, we tend to know his bodyguards because of that. Because he was always there for the family. He was a family guy. He was a family guy. Tata Mwingi was an intellectual. He was a leader. He was a leader. He was a leader in the family. He was a leader in the community. And I hope and I know a lot of people has learned a lot from him. I myself, when he used to visit he was very close to my father. My father was in fact an elder brother to him. So he'd come to my house and share some big ideas with my father. Then I would listen to them. And I would listen to them. And I enjoyed that because they were sharing good ideas about everything, religion, social issues, political issues. So I would learn a lot from them. He was a good guy. We are going to miss him. We are going to miss him as a family. We are going to miss him. Abengokugqibela kubantu abadala. Abengokugqibela kubantu abadala. Ushiyeke ngoku thina. But I assure you, we have learned something from him. And we are going to take it forward. And we are grateful to the ANC, to the government, for our uncle, because he has made us proud as a family. He has made us proud as a family. And we are not going to forget him. He's going to stay in our hearts forever and ever. Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Siyabulela kakhulu kutata wekhaya obebulela. Siyabulela kuye ngokunathi. Ngoku ke sifikelele kwithuba lokuba siphindisele eburhulumenteni. Sizokwazi ukuthi siqukumbele kuhanjwe. Kuthiwe ke ndingalibali ubulela ubawo umzukisi Thwala naye ngendima yakhe. Brigadier Pothelwa, over to you mama, enkosi kakhulu.
His Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Paul Mashatile, ministers, deputy ministers, former ministers and deputy ministers, MECs, members of parliament, councillors, directors general, the National Commissioner of Police, General SF Masemula, and the SAPS management team, religious leaders and community leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, the Mdladlana family, usapho nezalamane, fellow mourners. I am Brigadier Novella Potelwa from the South African Police Service in the Western Cape. In line with commemoration and the special funeral category B, category 2, as declared by the President of the Republic, in honor of former Minister Membathisi Mdladlana, we at this service are observing the South African Police Service ceremonial honors. Hence, at this point, I request you to allow me to invite Brigadier Right Reverend Sithembiso Shobedengosi to come and deliver a sermon. Brigadier Shobedengosi.
Your pala. Imizamo yami. Your pala. Ufika. Thank you so much, program directors. Allow me to stand on the protocols that have been established earlier, but exceptionally acknowledging Amazizi with all families related to this family. If I had to preach today, I would title my message, "It is just for a moment." To the 5 boys and a girl, it is just for a moment. The Bible teaches us that they are not dead, but they are sleeping. In the morning, we'll meet each other. Yes, it is not an easy thing to do to allow them to go and sleep. As you correctly said, my girl, that the house will be quiet. There are so many things that will keep on reminding you about him, but it is just for a moment. One day in the morning, we'll meet them. I'm saying to each and everyone that might have experienced the departure of the loved one, as painful as it may be, but it is just for a moment. I'm not going to be long. I just want to read few verses from the Bible. But before I get there, to those that have Bibles with them, they can open the Ephesians chapter 3. We'll start reading from verse number 14. As I'm hearing everyone expressing himself or herself with all the good things that Ntate Mdladlana was, seated there, my heart says, indeed, we are perishable containers, as it is inscripted in the 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, that all the goodness that he was, all what he was kept and contained in a perishable container. that is our weekly bodies. All the goodness that you see in front of you is kept and contained in the perishable container. Singakazelele, singalindile, one day it will disappear and collapse. Allow me to read these verses from the book of Ephesians chapter 3, verses number 14. Yes, that is why I pray for you. I go down on my knees to pray to God, our Father. Every family, those in heaven and those on earth, receives its true name from Him. I pray that God will cause you to be strong in your spirits. God has a great and valuable things in heaven to help you, family, even in times such as this. I pray that God's Spirit will help you with God's own power. I pray that Christ will make His home in you as you believe in Him. Then you will know God's love very well. You will be like trees that have roots which go down deep into God's love. That will make you strong as you mourn the departure of your loved one. Then you will understand with all God's people how much Christ loves us. That love is very wide and long, high and deep. Christ's love for us is so great that nobody can completely know it. As you understand this more and more, God's own nature will completely encompass you. To Him, who by means of His power working in us is able to do so much more than we can ever ask for or even think of. To God be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus for all times, forever and ever. May He comfort you and journey through with you in this trying time. Come, let us pray. Ungasimakade igama lakho, hlaba ungakasekelwa bewunguNkulunkulu. Konke okukhona kwavela ngawe. uNkulunkulu ongasideli, uNkulunkulu ongasiyekeli, uNkulunkulu ongasishiyi. Even ngezikhathi zobunzima bempilo yethu uthembisa ukuba khona. Emini egameni lika Jesu siza nalomndeni ihlobo zonke abalingani omakhelwane, the nation at large, siza nabo phambi kwakho simakade wamaZulu. Selaphe sipholise egameni lika Jesu. Sifundise uNkulunkulu ukuzibala izinsuku zethu. Emini sisho njengoDavide ukuthi ukuhamba kukaMinister Mdladlana kusikhumbuze ukuthi we are not here to stay. Ngesikhathi esingaziwayo sizobizwa masinyane. Thatha udumo babona amandla onke emini egameni lika Jesu. Isandla sakho esingafinyeziwe ukusindisa sipholisa amanxeba neminjunje ezwakalayo namhlanje mina. Sekwenzakale konke uhlale nathi uNkulunkulu ilanga seliyoshona. Ngoba usho njalo ezwini lakho wathi awunakusiyekela. Siyabonga ke babo sithandayo namhlanje sizophuma nakule ndawo uhambe nathi uqhubeke nathi. Ulekelela impilo zethu ukuthi sibe yilokho silethele ukuthi sibe yikho kulomhlaba. Ngegama lika Jesu igama elinamandla. Ile family babona amandla onke siphulekela isandla sakho ukuthi sihlale phezulu kwabo. Balekelele ukukubona njengoNkulunkulu even ngesikhathi esifana nalesi. Siyabonga ke baba. Akekho uNkulunkulu njengawe, thatha udumo lokufanele mini. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray in thanksgiving. Amen. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have now come to the part of the handing over of the national flag. As part of the South African Police Service elements of police ceremonial honors for the fallen heroes and heroines, the national flag will be handed over to the Chief Mourner. The handing over of the national flag to the family symbolizes the country's appreciation to the late former Minister Membathisi Mdladlana for his distinguished commitment, contribution, and sacrifice that he rendered for the benefit of our beautiful country, South Africa. Captain Galawe, please. Thank you very much, Deputy President. Thank you. Now we're going to call the Guard of Honor to come back inside the hall. Captain Galawe. As we clear the space, the Guard of Honor will come in any minute. Ladies and gentlemen, please take note. The South African Police Service Band will play Abide With Me. That will be followed by the last post and the reveille that will be played by the trumpeter. As a short brief of Abide With Me, it will be played as part of the South African Police elements of police ceremonial honors for fallen heroes. Abide With Me is played during the lowering of the coffin at the graveside. It is also a prayer through melody in which, as mourners, we are asking God to stay with us in life and in death as we mourn. We also commemorate and honor our former minister, Membathisi Mdladlana. The last post, the trumpeter will play the last post, which reminds us that our former minister, Mdladlana, has gone to his final resting place. This is the final farewell to our former minister, Mdladlana. During the playing of the last post, only commissioned officers will salute to pay last respect to the late former minister, as we say he must rest in peace. Lastly, the trumpeter will play the reveille, which reminds us of his final roll call on earth as we remember our late former minister, Membathisi Mdladlana, who diligently served the country, hoping that one day, in the morning, when the roll call, we will meet him once again. Over to you, Band Commander. Thank you. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the special official memorial service with sub-elements of police ceremonial honors. I will now request the parade commander to withdraw the guard of honor. As the guard of honor is marched out, you are kindly requested to remain seated during the marching out. Captain Galawe, please. Thank you. Thank you very much to the Guard of Honor. I will now call back our first program director, Mr. Skwacha, to take over from here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Masingo man, I'm so touched that the dignity, ukundiliseka nesidima. I know that you don't thank the fish for swimming, but National Commissioner and the SANDF and all those who perform such, you really are making our country proud. And I think we have to say that. A deep sense of appreciation. I have been asked to make just the following announcements. That now, His Excellency the Deputy President will take leave of us. Immediately after that, the family will use that door ebebengene ngayo ukuya for refreshments. And those that used that door will again use that door ukuya nabo kulindawo. I have been specifically instructed to announce to everybody ukuba akuyiwa ePinelands. Zawufika ungekho umuntu pha. Yonke into ilapha. So at this stage I want to thank all of you. And I really want to thank on my own behalf, to thank with a deep sense of appreciation the Mdladlana family for choosing such a young man. And as benibone ntoni kondinika ithende ebaluleke kangaka. Thina silangozibona TV nezinto. This service is now officially adjourned after our Deputy President takes leave. Enkosi kakhulu.